I was like the whole time I was saying that transition thing, like, fuck, I don't like, fuck. But you have to say it. You have to do it. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Filipino Freethinkers podcast that's also a video or podcast. I'm Red.
I'm Pepe.
And I'm Talia.
And this is actually our 101st episode. Imagine that. Yeah, and it's also the most humid episode.
Yes.
Yup.
Yeah, we're sacrificing for the Filipino people here. So
Yes, we are.
do listen. We're talking about Mar Roxas, the candidate. Is there any other Mar Roxas? And
So, Manong Mar.
the ability of democracy, in particular, this whole voting elections
Representative
exercise
Yeah.
to change stuff meaningfully. Right? So let's start off with Mar. What do you think of him? Are you voting for him? Are you voting?
No and no. But
Okay, and then the focus is would he be a good leader, right? That those are separate
Yeah.
things, especially with all the strategic voting going
Yes,
on. Like,
yes.
I know for a fact that a lot of intelligent people like Miriam, right? Like, and they're justified in liking her, but they're not voting for her because
Yeah.
she's not even in the running, so to speak. She's like
yeah.
She has
Her
a
rank.
3%
Winnability.
point zero. No, yeah, it's a full. It's an integer.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. What's your take?
Yeah, it's the problem with that is like you have to factor in the winnability.
Of Mar.
No, I'm sorry.
Okay, we're okay.
For
Okay.
Miriam.
But going back to Mar,
Yeah.
I like how Mar really tries.
He does.
Try harding.
Yeah, he does
Okay.
try.
Hashtag.
Yeah.
As far as I can see, he has no corruption charges that are out-
Evident.
Yeah,
He allegedly has no corruption charge.
Yes.
allegedly.
Allegedly. Yeah.
And he has a long
History.
long history in governance.
I
And
mean,
he
he
has
was a
experience.
president of the Philippines before.
Different.
That Mar.
Yeah.
No. Si Man.
Man Rojas. Yeah.
But my only concern about Mar is that he is tied with the bourgeoisie.
Yes.
Bourgeoisie.
Bourgeoisie.
He's,
Yeah,
he's still
you're
part
bourgeoisie for saying it that way. You say bourgeois if you know.
Bourgeois.
To be extra derogatory. Yeah.
the bourgeoisie. He's part of the bourgeoisie, and it's a club. It's a club, and
Oligarchs Club.
yeah,
Oligarchs
Okay,
Club.
oligarchs.
his middle name is
Araneta.
and that's a very prominent family in the Philippines.
They have a
The
coliseum.
Rojas.
They
Yeah.
have a
Araneta,
coliseum.
there's
They have a
Rojas.
coliseum. Yeah.
And so that's really he's up
Okay,
there.
he's part of the power.
Yes,
He's
yes.
part of the man, and
Yeah.
I think all of this opposition to him, I would say, is maybe split into two major things. One being the incompetence that he's shown, particularly in PR. I think it's a
Yes,
a
his PR is
disaster,
terrible.
and the execution of some things. Like response to disasters and all that.
Yes.
And on the other hand, there's he's part of the power, he's part of the man, and people are tired of being under the man, and they
Yeah.
want to stick it to the man, and Man Rojas. So
I don't think anyone can be entirely sure given all of the inconsistencies of the candidates. I mean, it's really difficult to have one candidate that you'll be sure of.
yeah,
Well,
yeah,
We'll be forced to vote eventually for the ones who are voting, but if you really think, if you had to just keep thinking it over, you could research about everyone forever and ever and ever and never
Amen.
end.
okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
But for
You
Mar-
eventually have to make that choice. Have you
Yes.
made that choice?
No, I
Not
haven't.
yet. Okay, yeah, I think it makes sense. The trade-off there is the sooner you make your choice, the sooner you can campaign for your person, especially
That's
if there are
true. That's
people waiting for what you say. Like for the block voters,
Yeah.
Filipino freethinkers, they're waiting. They're waiting for our
Yes.
list, right?
It's all five of us.
We'll, in one of our masses, we will give
sure,
it. We will
yes.
give it to them.
During the homily.
Before the collection, we also distribute the thing.
For Mar, his problem is his failed attempt to be relatable, I think.
Failed at Okay, that's the PR thing, right?
Yeah, for PR, I
Yeah.
think he keeps trying to seem like he's a normal Filipino, but everyone knows he's an Araneta. He didn't even
Yeah.
go to school here for university.
Yeah.
He went
Wharton,
he went
that
to Wharton.
whole Wharton thing, like,
Yes, which Duterte has brought up repeatedly. And
yeah, I don't get that though. He gets flack for being part of the elite,
yes,
the bourgeoisie,
Yeah.
Burgisi.
right? And but people fault him like for lying about it as well.
Yeah, I think it's that he's inconsistent with it. I mean, if you look at Gebot Chidoro, who was also very, very rich when he was campaigning, he was fairly honest about it. He
Yeah.
didn't pretend, oh, I'm a common Filipino. No, he understood he is a part of the Coanco family. I'm rich, I can't fake it.
Yeah.
And I think that's one thing that was appreciated, which is why he didn't have as many smear campaigns.
Yeah, but he
Not like
lost.
Mar. He lost.
You know,
Yes.
like we have to wonder again. Referring back to the 100th episode where we
Yes.
discussed, the disparity between social media and the general pulse of the public. Like maybe Mar's campaign team knows something that we don't. Maybe
Possibly.
there's a huge portion of the population for whom it works. That kind of I am a palenquero.
Yeah, Mr. Palengke.
Mr. Palengke.
I'm Mr. Palenque. I fall on my motorcycle. I risk my life. That
I
kind
wear
of thing.
chinelas.
I'm in my own graphic novel,
Yeah.
right? Like that kind of thing. Maybe it works for a certain population, but
Possibly,
in our echo chambers, it hasn't worked
Yeah.
Yeah.
so far. But too much focus, I guess, on the PR. Enough has been said about that. What do we think about his platform? His capability. Let's start first with the positives, then we'll go to the negatives. So what do you think?
Continuity definitely would help if there are, for
Continuity.
example, because government projects take a lot of years to finish, right?
Yeah.
You don't want these things to be cut off simply because the administration changed.
Yeah.
And that's
Okay.
a huge waste of resources.
I agree with that.
So there's merit in saying that, okay, Daang Matuwid,
Yeah.
that's their
Their slogan.
Yeah, their slogan. So they're just gonna keep going through the path that we're on right now.
Yeah, they made 18 year, so they need 3 presidents. I don't know. They made that kind of
Yeah,
long-term
so-
thing.
But that's a good form of planning because
Yeah.
all the progressive countries, their plans are really
Long-term.
They take
Yeah.
20 years or more,
Yeah.
and so they think far ahead, and so that's a step in the right direction. Thinking farther and farther ahead into the future.
Yeah,
There's just the issue of I think how much change have we seen in the past administration, and is that the same rate of change that we want to see, or do we want?
Are we
even-
content with that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
So are we content with that? That's the.
so are we content with more of the same? Hashtag.
More-
That's
More of
that's
the
my
same.
that's my
Oh my
free.
God.
You get that for free, Mar campaign team.
I don't
the,
think they want that.
do the interview with us. You get it for free. I will charge you nothing for more of the same.
So charitable.
But going back to what you said, I think of the analogy of a computer. Computer, and you're installing like an operating system,
Yeah.
right? Like you already have one. If you want to switch to a different one, it will take time. You have to make sure that the software and hardware are all compatible. You have to search the internet if there are problems and so on. So what I'm saying is, like, if you want to switch to a different OS, say you're already on a Microsoft Windows OS, and you want to consider something like Linux, you have to consider how much time that will cost if you have to buy new things, if everything works as well as it did before. So moving back to the Mar analogy, like they keep on trumpeting this daang matuwid, and that he's compatible with that, right?
Yeah.
Like more of the same, right? So that what I'm saying is, like, if you switch to a different leader that's not compatible with daang matuwid, it would cost some effort
Yeah.
and definitely taxpayer.
The transition will be.
There will
costly,
be
yeah.
a transitional cost. So what I'm saying is, for some people, they're arguing that the next president should not only be better than Mar, like all things equal, they should be better than Mar plus the
Transition
additional transition cost.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right? So, of course, if there are bad things about Mar, then that could, further justify switching. So that all factors in, and transitional cost is one good reason.
Yeah.
For me, though, like, I think Mar is a capable leader, a capable legislator.
Yes.
Binay had to admit that,
Yeah.
right? He doesn't have the PR of other politicians or maybe the charisma, but he is smart. He did study well. He knows a lot of things. If you get all of the presidential candidates in a room, like give them a test. Write down like your proposed solutions to certain things. That would take into account understanding of how government works,
Economics.
how economics works, and many other topics. I think Mar would come out on top, if not tied with
Miriam. By
Miriam,
far.
right? But that's not how presidents work. Fortunately, they can hire others so that even if someone who is unqualified on paper as who, like even Pacquiao. Let's say Pacquiao wins the presidential seat. There's a reunion
2022.
clash with Mayweather, and he wins that one. That could propel him, to the presidency, and he doesn't have to decide things. It's not like he's in a room. There's a piece of paper.
A list of decisions.
Not open book. You have to answer the problems of the country. No, you can hire people much smarter than you are.
Yeah.
It's really just the executive decision making. That very top level, and even those you have like so many advisors
Yes.
Yeah.
that you can just choose from.
Yeah.
I mean, that's assuming it's not Chavit, who's just
Oh my God.
like next to him. Yeah, so that's my point. What do you think about Mar?
The thing with Mar is, despite his being so out of touch with the common man, he's part of that oligarchy and all that. When you look at his track record in Senate, the bills that he's passed are really relevant to pretty much every Filipino. He has bills on wet market restrictions and things that affect our everyday lives that people don't really care about because it's not in the Philippine culture for us to care about what's happening in Senate or to care about legislations that are being passed.
At least not about the details,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
majority, like they just care about what's in the headlines, what
Yeah.
it means for them. Another thing that Mar is attributed, I mean, something that he claims himself,
Yes.
Allegedly, is his involvement in fathering a BPO industry.
Yes.
Yeah, he's the father
Yes.
of a BPO industry. I think he did have something to do with that.
Yes.
Like how much, maybe that's what's being
That's
argued.
up in the air, yeah.
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 A lot of people also have lauded him. Experts, people not in the Philippines, have said the way he handled the Yolanda, the disaster relief, is being used as a template or model for other countries. Of course, there are critics who would say, like,
It's terrible.
are you joking?
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Still, we're focusing on the positive right now.
Actually, even after Yolanda, if we look at how Glenda was handled as the storm that came very soon after at a very similar scale, Glenda, the impact it made was fairly minimal. And you see that at least after Yolanda, because it was so terrible, they learned from their mistakes, which is something I personally appreciate
Yeah.
in Mar.
Negative now, right? Let's just get this out of the way.
Yes.
Right? Like, because a lot of people would put all of the negatives of Pinoy, like, put it on Mar. Like
Yes,
he
copy
did
paste.
not do that. He did not do that. Maybe it's kind of fair because he's using that machinery and kind of saying that it's more of the same. I will continue daang matuwid. So maybe they're justified in saying that whatever the faults of Pinoy are, like,
Carry over.
can the sins of the father of the BPO, the sins of the father visited on the whatever, right? But let's not talk about the faults of Pinoy. That would be more than the time we have in this
Yeah.
podcast. So focus on Mar himself.
With regard to Mar's performance, I don't really have much to say against him. My biggest peeve maybe would be overlooking a bias.
Okay, not firing the guy.
Yeah. 'Cause that
like,
was pretty
standing up for him
bad
and
because
defending him and all that.
There was clear negligence, or I don't know. I hope it's not malicious, but yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of a party thing, Also, I'm sure he himself has some stuff to criticize Pinoy about, but it's
Surely.
just the LP way or the party way in general
You
to
have
not
to toe
talk.
the line.
Yeah. Don't throw flack at your party mate.
Actually, I disagree with that because if you look at Lenny's statements, Mara's running mate, you'll see her disagreeing straight up with Pinoy. She disagreed with him on Hacienda Luisita. She was
Okay.
very vocal
Okay.
about these things, which
The
is
Lenny
something-
podcast.
the Lenny podcast, which will never probably happen because we don't have time.
Yeah.
I mean, I wish that Mar had the guts.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, Mar is
Yeah.
more of a party person.
That's very true.
Lenny
And
is new to the game.
and he's been
so-
in the same party for a while.
Okay, so being part of LP is being seen by you as negative. Being part of the oligarchy
Yes, very
as well,
negative.
like a vote for Mar is Mar of the same. Mar of the same people. How much can I play with this fun? Can I do it for the rest of the episode? I
Please
promise
don't.
not to do it
Please
in
don't.
real. Okay, in Mar of the same people holding power.
Yes.
For a lot of people, that is an important thing, and giving them another 6 years is further entrenching the same people in power.
Yeah.
So like it's kind of same government, different face.
Yeah.
That's what's happening, and we will get to our next discussion in a while of how democracy or whether democracy can actually change things.
Well, not particularly about Mar, but like almost shifting into the topic of whether or not representative democracy works.
Yeah.
It's like we mentioned earlier how Mar isn't the most charismatic,
Yeah.
PR guy.
Yeah.
Sometimes he comes off as pretty cringe.
Yeah.
Plus he has Karina.
Stuff. Yeah.
Okay, let's not-
We're not gonna talk about it. That's all we're gonna say.
that can be a plus for some people,
But the
It's a
thing
negative
is,
for a lot of people also.
I mean okay.
just the comment is on how it shouldn't be that much of a factor in
You mean Corina?
like
Or his charisma.
His charisma
Okay.
Yes.
and his PR.
Okay.
Should not be as big a deal
Okay.
as I would like to be.
Yeah.
I think like your policies and how effective they were should be really the heart of your campaign.
That's true.
So, but unfortunately, because
in fantasy magic
because
La La
reality-
Land,
Yeah, exactly.
in Adventure Time Land,
yeah,
okay,
in theory,
okay, in
Theory
theory, right? But in the real life, well, like going back on that, like if I may, I'll just go back and jump back to the positive, like and start off with the negative, because you mentioned his charisma. I think that's a positive thing in a way. Like, hear me out. So when people are charismatic, studies have shown that they turn off parts of their brains. That part of the brain that's responsible for executive, decision-making stuff, so that people can easily be fooled. They'll just believe without question whatever the person who's charismatic, whatever they say, they believe. And I see like symptoms of that now in the cult of Duterte. Of course, there are smart Duterte fans who critically and skeptically assess everything and they study before making statements. But there are those who just, whatever you say, Duterte pa rin. That kind of
Yeah,
cult
yeah.
mentality. Mar has no risk of that.
true.
I think like,
he has critics left and right.
yeah, like
Even amongst the supporters.
when people believe him, it's probably because the message that he's putting out there, his proposal has merit.
Yes.
It probably has nothing to do or little to do because power and position itself lends you some deservedly or not some credibility to what you're saying.
Yes.
But he not so much with Mar.
Yeah.
Because he's not the immediately likable, immediately charismatic person. So he has to like work extra hard, the try hard we were talking about earlier, to justify whatever measure he's proposing. And that I think is a good thing. People are not critical enough of their government and
and they will be critical of Mar.
yeah, they will be critical of Mar. And something that's surprising to me is, how people are so critical of the Aquino administration. So they want none of that, but they're willing to sacrifice the same critical mindset to elect someone like Duterte.
Yeah.
You have to really turn off that critic part of your brain to say that unequivocally Duterte is the best candidate. It's one thing to say that he has some flaws, but I'm willing to live with those, killing whatever allegedly DDS and all that.
Yes.
And it's another to say no, he's really the best in all ways that you can think of. And Mar, yeah, people will question him, and that's a plus for me.
That's true.
Yeah. So Mar of the same. Whether democracy changes things, what's your take on this?
Well, whether democracy changes things or not, I'm gonna go back to like the OS thing.
Yeah.
If first I want to specify when I say democracy in this episode, I'm talking about representative democracy. Because
Representative democracy.
which is what we have right now. Because
Yes.
there are various
There are many.
flavors of
Flavors.
democracy.
Yeah.
So there's delegative, there's direct.
Delegative and direct are
You might
infinitely
want to look
better.
those up. They're very nice
Okay.
models for.
What we have now is kind of like polyarchy,
Yeah.
Yeah.
where many people are ruling over. Anyway, go ahead.
So I think that going back to the analogy with the computer and the operating system, like you can change the OS as much as you want on a computer,
Yeah.
but it doesn't change the underlying hardware.
Yeah.
So I think representative democracy is an underlying hardware.
Yeah.
You every time you have an elections, you change the OS.
Yeah.
But there are existing better computers out
Yeah.
there that are far more efficient.
What you mean is not so much the infrastructure when you say hardware, right? Like the actual systems.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
In
the
place.
yeah.
I think like sure there are forms of representative democracy that are better than others. I mean, it's a spectrum.
Yeah.
With political systems, it's never really all it's black and white. It's
Yeah.
always a spectrum.
Yeah.
With how complex the whole space is.
Yeah.
And there is room for change in representative democracy. We can have representative democracies that are strongly oppressive.
Yeah.
We have others that lean more towards pro-social policies.
So you know the social democrat style of someone like Sanders, for
Yeah,
instance,
yeah.
it still
Yes.
falls in the representative
Yeah.
democracy system.
Definitely. So that's what I think of representative. There's room for change.
Yeah.
But at some point, I think there is a time that we will have to switch to something better.
Yeah. I want to echo that what you said. I completely agree. If anything, democracy is kind of a buffer
It is.
in that things can't get so much worse, but at the same time, things can get so much better.
Yeah.
Like you won't have like redistribution of wealth. You know, like the current system just does not favor something like that happening, right? Like
Not
the
at
most
all.
we can get maybe is a universal basic income,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
is you know kind of trending in other countries right now.
Yeah, it's already
Yeah.
getting some support.
Yeah,
But
go
it's still, it's
UBI.
a pretty radical idea to many.
Yeah. So in this exercise, I think it's a kind of same face. I mean, same government, different face. Except for Duterte. To be fair,
Yes.
I think he's kind of a game changer. You know, like of all the candidates, he, for better or worse, will have something different. You know, different is not always good.
Yeah.
And not always bad.
You know, like I keep getting fatter, right? I wanna change my diet by eating more sweets instead of steaks, right? So you know, like change is not necessarily always a good thing. You know, I'll start eating shit or I'll start, you know, imagine the coat mining. Feel free to coat mine. I'll start yeah.
Shit.
What do you think? What do you think? Will you start eating shit?
No.
Okay.
For Mar, I think we've covered all of the major points, and for that, I'm still undecided. I think I'll decide after all of our podcasts are out and after the elections are done. I will not
Wait
tell
for it.
anyone.
Wait, yeah.
The only thing I'd like to add on Mar is that I find it interesting that both he and his father were lost the vice presidency by the narrowest margins,
Huh.
and so one could ask if he'll also follow his grandfather in possibly becoming the president of the Philippines.
Okay, let's see. Maybe it skips a generation
Maybe.
and then he'll
Yeah,
maybe he'll get
yeah.
lucky. You know, it's the but yeah. So when it comes to Mar, okay, competency. You know, the potential is there,
Yeah.
right? But the status quo is also there. There's the oligarchy. There's the incompetency allegedly,
Yeah.
right? And you know, it's all a weighing thing, and we have to really study some more. One thing that I do like about Mar definitely is I think out of all of the candidates, his campaign platform is the most comprehensive.
That's true.
You know, it's not a PowerPoint presentation with bullets and then like some items. You know, it's really comprehensive and it links and it's impressive. You know, like you have to give them credit for that. What people are questioning maybe is whether he can implement such a thing. You know, that's what people are faulting him for. But I think the potential is there, and it's it's still somebody worth considering. He could still win this. You know, I think
A plan is
yeah.
better than no.
That's true.
Plan is better than no plan at all.
Okay, gonna be
Or a
interesting.
hidden plan.
Thank you for watching this episode. If you support Mar, you know, are you part of the silent majority? Or are you a Mar critic? You know, you hate Mar of the same. Let us know. Comment, like, share, subscribe. You know the drill and the promo.
Yeah, after all the elections, FF is going to tell you who FF supported for the presidency. And if you voted for that person, you're instantly inducted as a member.
You do
Yeah.
not get a shirt. No, you do not get the shirt.
Now that's value. And on behalf of Pepe, Talia, the analyst desk, and our millions of staff members. Thank you so much and see you next week.
So hot.